Good morning, gamers. Today I have some actually exciting news. The Supreme Court has actually accepted a Second Amendment lawsuit. They've chosen to grant cert to a lawsuit. Crazy, I know. I thought that it would never happen again in my lifetime. I'm being a little pessimistic for obvious reasons if you've been up to date with what's going on in the world when it comes to guns and gun rights and your ability to legally defend yourself. Now, we are talking about a Hawaii lawsuit, Wolford v. Lopez. This is a Supreme Court case this is a court case out of Hawaii that was granted cert by the Supreme Court. Only on one issue. It's not going to be a massive game changer. It is on conduct regarding concealed carry and the vampire clause, which we'll go into in a minute. But it's very promising, and it's very likely that this could be a big deal for the lawsuit that I'm involved in, May versus Bonta. I'm going to try to be respectful of your time. I'm going to give you all of the points that you need, none that you don't. You just got to sit through the ad read or skip past it. Thank you to Delete Me. Delete Me is one of the biggest sponsors on the channel. Delete Me is a service that goes online. It makes it significantly easier and faster for you to get your information off those publicly available white pages websites. If you go online, you type in your name and maybe the city you live in, you will probably find very quickly your name, address, phone number, all that information for your partner, significant other, kids. It's kind of surprising and shocking, if you've never done that, how much information is just readily available on the front page of Google with just a quick little search. If you exist on the internet, you want to protect yourself from online threats, because sometimes online threats manage to materialize in the real world. I've been paying for Delete Me for almost 4 years now. I think it might actually be 4 years as of August of this year. I've been paying for it for about 4 years, and I think it's a fantastic service. It makes it significantly easier because these pages online are constantly adding your information onto the internet, and it's a constant battle. Having Delete Me, they do all the hard work for you, make it significantly easier for you to stay a little bit more anonymous in this day and age. Use the code and the link down in the description. It'll save you some money. Thank you to Delete Me for supporting me and making all of this possible. Thank you. This is Wolford v. Lopez. Now, I'm going to be reading from my phone just because I have a lot of notes, and this is not a court case that I've been following every single step of the way, because a lot of the steps of the way when it comes to these lawsuits are pretty boring. So I'm going to give you all the meat and potatoes. So this is a Ninth Circuit lawsuit that initially challenged the sensitive spaces and the vampire clause rules in the state of Hawaii. After Bruin, the Supreme Court case that made every state have to give out CCW permits to people that could legally do so. No more may issue. It changed every state to shall issue for concealed carry weapons permits. A handful of states didn't really quite like that you, a mere plebeian, could go out in the world with ample tools to protect yourself. So what they did was they made a list of sensitive spaces, which basically covered every single publicly accessible piece of property or land, and oftentimes the parking lots and roads around them. They made them sensitive spaces. In addition to that, the vampire clause, which was coined, I believe, by Rob Romano. The vampire clause basically means that if you, as a CCW holder with a lawful firearm on you, wanted to go into a publicly accessible private business or property, you would have to first get permission in some way to go into that property. In the state of California, that permission has to be in the form of publicly visible signage at the entrances with very specific criteria of how it's worded. In Hawaii, they also allowed just an individual to get verbal or some sort of other confirmation from the property owner, so it didn't have to be public. So that's what the Wolford v. Lopez was challenging, the sensitive spaces and the vampire clause. Thankfully, the lower court decision in Hawaii actually ruled against the vampire clause and many of the sensitive spaces. Unfortunately, unlike May versus Bonta, the lawsuit I'm involved in, the Ninth Circuit actually ruled in favor of the state and said that the vampire clause was fine, which was really interesting to have the Ninth Circuit say that California's that only allows signs isn't okay, but Hawaii's that also allows verbal but can also require signs, that was actually okay and could be upheld. California, vampire clause, struck down. Hawaii's, upheld by the same Ninth Circuit. Thankfully, because of the good work by the law firm that's representing this case, they were actually able to get that decision to be put on hold. So currently in Hawaii, the vampire clause is not in effect, even though the Ninth Circuit said that it is constitutional. Little weird, and I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice. Now, the Supreme Court granted cert on, I believe, October 3rd. He asked me what day it was. I said it was October 3rd. And you also got the Supreme Court to accept the Vampire Clause question. Now, the Vampire Clause question is the only question that they're really going to be challenging at the Supreme Court level. This is still in the preliminary injunction phase of the lawsuit. So the Supreme Court will look and say, hey, is this chill? Can a state ban a blanket ban requiring permission? Can they actually compel speech from a business if people should be allowed to exercise their right to protect themselves, keep and bear arms and all that jazz, right? I'm very hopeful that the Supreme Court says that this is bad. I'm also very hopeful that there's some language in the decision that they eventually make that would actually be beneficial for more of these CCW lawsuits, because if it's just about the vampire clause, that's great if it gets struck down, but I would love there to be some sort of language in there that makes it even more blatantly clear, because apparently Bruin was not clear enough, that the states can't just ban entire wide sweeping areas of the state that should be accessible to the public for people to be able to protect themselves. We might be capable of extreme violence because we have a gun on us, but when it comes to actually, if you look at the people that have a concealed carry weapons permit, the rate of crime that they commit per capita is just insanely low. And yet for some reason, people with concealed carry permits are the true danger, because you should have your orange slices with you at the park, not a gun. When is this going to happen? There's some speculation that they could start doing the oral arguments before the end of February. Who knows? If anyone's saying anything hard and fast of this is when it's going to happen, this is when a decision is going to come out, we really don't know. As of right now, there's good news that some progress is actually happening. The Supreme Court has actually agreed to take a case. Unfortunately, it's not unfortunate, but I wish that the Supreme Court also would choose to take up a hardware ban on types of firearms and take it up on a Second Amendment ground, and not just these conduct bans, because they're both very important. Being able to conceal carry is very important, but being able to own firearms and have a clear answer that says you can or cannot do this ban of a type of gun, I think that's kind of something that we really need when it comes to the Second Amendment lawsuit environment, because we had the bump stock ban, but that was really more of an issue of the ATF not having the authority to do that, and not so much on whether or not bump stocks can be banned, if that makes sense. So I would love to see a mag ban case taken by the Supreme Court. I would love to see an assault weapon ban case taken by the Supreme Court. And I would love to see some sort of handgun roster case taken by the Supreme Court. Obviously, I'm a plaintiff in Bolin versus Bonta challenging the California handgun roster, so that would be very beneficial for me and the people in my state, but it would be beneficial for everyone. So I would love to see a hardware ban at some point, but at the very least, we're getting a conduct ban, so people that have a concealed carry permit can get some clarification and get some of their rights taken back, because you have the rights, really. You always have the right to do these things, but being able to exercise those rights without going to jail is pretty sick, if you ask me. So let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer. Please stop asking me questions that are directly incriminating to things that you are saying you're doing. Please stop sending me videos and photos of you doing illegal things and then saying, I got busted doing this. Please stop doing that. Thank you. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace. Use the code and the link down in the description. It'll save you some money. Thank you to Delete Me for supporting me and making all of this possible. Thank you.